Okay, I'm Robin John Anderson. Uh, my date of birth is 12/29/51.
Okay, thank you. So, so Robin, you moved to Jerome in 1978,
Right?
and that was from where?
That was from Scottsdale, actually. Uh, we uh, we hit the big time in Phoenix and moved up to Scottsdale, and we had a beautiful house, but I was getting paint on the rug, so it was an inappropriate lifestyle. So we heard about the buildings coming available in A, B, and C building of the old Mingus High School up here in Jerome. So we came for the buildings.
Uh-huh. When you say you hit the big time, what do you mean?
Uh, we were doing shows, uh, art shows, and started doing rather well. I can remember our first $1,000 show, and then from then on it was sellout shows, and it started happening. The career started happening. It started getting into galleries, and it was it was time that we could turn our work over to other people, like galleries and so forth, and make enough money to support the house and you know do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, and this is you and your wife Margot.
Yeah, my wife Margot.
And so you were both painting?
Yeah, both. That was two incomes, and so we both chose a motif, and then uh, explored that motif until we hit. Uh, it was it was of the time when if you did one thing and did it well, uh, you could make a very good living. So that's what we were doing.
Aha. Great. But your styles were different. You
Yeah,
had, yeah.
yeah, yeah. She took on Indian pottery, like still life, uh, and then I took on Indian portraits, and we did those and made it into the galleries and did quite well.
Right. Were you born in Phoenix?
Yeah, I was born in Phoenix.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you went to ASU
No,
for your art education, or are you self-taught?
I, uh, I, I went to New York to study art, but no, I barely made it out of high school, and I wanted to be an artist. That's what I wanted to do.
No question.
So no questions. So that's what I started in doing, and started selling my work by the roadside, and from the roadside I got into shows, and from the shows I got into galleries.
Wow. Very determined
Yeah,
young man.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and well, I didn't know you were born in Phoenix. I'll be darned.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you went to New York to study for a while and then came back.
yeah, yeah. After we had done pretty well, uh, we were here in Jerome, and we did well enough that we could go study uh, art in New York City.
Wow, were you selling around the country or just
Yeah.
in Arizona?
At the time, I was with Elaine Horwich Galleries,
Oh, yeah.
and she was a very powerful dealer. Had three galleries, and we we started doing very very well through Elaine, and then through our studios, we also pre-sold some of the shows, and really started a kind of a role uh, with the hype of selling, so much during each show.
You sold out the shows before they opened.
Yeah.
Now that's a sure sign of success. You must
Yeah.
have been pretty excited.
Yeah, I wish I would have retained some of that chutzpah, for later on. It seems to have worn out.
When you mean confidence or
Yeah, confidence, desire to do something. I went to New York to make it in New York, and I eventually found out that I wasn't that kind of animal. I wasn't the driven artist that wanted to show up at openings and so forth. I was more someone that wanted to work, and throughout my career, it's been more like that. I've wanted to work, so that's held me back, I think. So.
Not fond of the shaking hands and kissing babies.
No, no.
I understand. Yeah, it's often uncomfortable conversation for an artist, I think, just the kind of mundane. I don't know, and people have the most awkward questions about your work, and you're not quite sure how to explain your motivations because they're kind of amorphous and fleeting and changing, and don't you think? Or
I've had every kind of question that I could imagine, and I made every kind of mistake that I could, in answering them.
Better to have a representative.
Yeah, better.
So you guys were, I assume, getting a lot of press in Phoenix and doing well, and and you decided you needed a better place to work, and that's why how'd you find out about Jerome?
Jerome. Well, there was a jeweler by the name of Randy Polk that discovered royal lavulite. That was his claim to fame, and he named that stone. It was a purple stone from Africa, and he used that a lot in his jewelry, and he had rented some rooms in this building and told us about more being open to let,
Yeah.
So I was ready to move up to Jerome, where I thought it was a lot more peaceful. And I can remember laying on the couch and watching the clouds go by. And I'd never experienced such peace and the ability to just relax and become healed. So that's what Jerome was for me. It was this relaxing environment, big spaces that promoted a kind of a healing over what was happening in Phoenix and Scottsdale.
Sure. Now, did you let out, or did you rent that entire A building when you first came up here?
We got into that slowly. So we started with just 2 rooms, and then expanded into the whole building within a year or 2.
Okay. And it was probably pretty affordable back then. Hey?
Yes, I remember $300.
Oh my gosh.
I remember that, but I might be wrong. That seems
these days seems pretty.
Yeah, $300 for a building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, were there other artists here? Was that an attraction
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah. There were other artists in the building and the other buildings, and it was a camaraderie of artists that a community that uh, uh, could talk to one another, you know. So it was a great thing.
Not like talking to a client.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no.
Who was here? Do you remember who was?
Jim Rome.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
interviewed him a couple weeks ago.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Rome was in the building. Uh, there was Gary and Pam Fullerton
Hmm.
and
Don't know
Romig.
them.
Yeah, they were back a ways. Uh,
And who did you say next?
uh, there was Ray Levy and Jim. Oh, I'm not going to get it. Anyway,
Well, that's okay. But those were all in the A building with you?
yeah,
Oh wow. And what about the other buildings? Were there people there too?
yeah. There were other people in a building, and our building was full with us getting the 2 rooms. And then when someone couldn't pay the rent, we'd ask for that room.
Was Verdi Exploration still owner of the building back then?
Yes, it was still it was Verdi Exploration, but it was Paul Handverger that
Superintendent?
was the super of
Oh,
it.
so that was before
Roberta
the
Westcott.
Westcotts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. So, well, they're beautiful spaces, and
Yeah.
I guess I've seen a lot of your sculpture, but that was something you started up here.
Yeah. I am friends with John Soderberg, and
Yes.
John Soderberg taught me his techniques to do sculpture, and I did one big sculpture. Took me 2 years, and I didn't make any money on it. I think I broke even, but it was uh, it was very expensive.
Yeah, that was clay and then a bronze cast
Yeah, it started off with tin foil, and then
as an armature.
clay. Yeah, and
Okay.
then there was a metal armature underneath the tin foil, and then uh, clay was built up on the tin foil like a skin, so it wasn't nearly as heavy.
Right. Yeah. Wow. And so you also started etching once you got this. I guess that big
Yeah.
space offered you new opportunities
Right,
for
right.
art exploration.
I could do anything I wanted. And I had done etchings down in Scottsdale. I had bought myself a small press, and I I pulled etchings, but it was awfully tough on that small press. And later on, I bought Jim Rome's etching press, and that's a dream. That's something that I can print on all day long.
Okay. It's pretty big. It's,
Yes, it's a good sized press.
Wow.
It can do a 18 by 24.
So you found a welcoming community of artists here when you got here.
Yeah,
Did
yeah, really
you,
enjoyed it.
you guys felt like you were all on the same adventure?
Yeah, we had meetings to discuss strategies, and it was all very good.
Supporting each other how to do sales. Did you sell here in town as well?
I
Just
did.
in local galleries?
I sold through the high school.
Okay.
Through my buildings.
You had enough space to
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
right.
Margot realized early on that the space that we had would make an ideal gallery space, and indeed it made something that was akin to a museum, you know. And we've made our living through that after the galleries no longer supported us.
Well, there's a question. When you moved up here, did that jeopardize your relationship with the Horowitz Gallery, etc.?
A little bit. Elaine died in, I think, 91. And it depressed me so that I couldn't get down to Scottsdale to attend her shows. And once the artist wasn't attending shows, that was considered a breach of etiquette.
Yeah.
And I lost Elaine that way.
Huh.
But I was able to show with her until the very end of her commercial business.
Okay. Did you? Now told me you started out painting Indian portraits.
Yeah.
Which which was a natural, I guess.
Yeah.
For the Southwest.
For the Southwest, you bet.
Now, did you change your focus when you came up here?
Yeah, I started looking around at the landscape, and said I got to come to terms with this. And so I got involved with the landscape, and became more famous for my landscapes than my my Indians.
And your interest changed as well.
My interest in art was changing from the Southwest Indian into a more universal idea.
Well, how that was a philosophical change too. I mean, people faces the history of Indians and their treatment here in the country and all that attendant information. That's a whole different philosophical approach or artistic approach to that subject matter versus the environment. So you felt like it was an evolution?
At first, yes. I thought that the landscape was higher in kind of aesthetic
beauty,
yeah, than the Indians. I always thought that the Indians were kind of a selling idea, you know, like it was logical to be in the Southwest and do cowboys and Indians, you know.
Yeah.
Which is a selling idea. It's marketing. Whereas the landscape opened it up to be universal and just beautiful. And finally, with the landscape, after I'd done that, I missed the figure. I felt that the figure was more important than landscape. All right. So I dropped the landscape, got involved with the figure, and then got invited to the Florence Biennale because I was into something that was more contemporary.
And
I couldn't
classic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't make it in landscape into that Biennale, and I couldn't make it in with Indians into the Biennale, but I could make it into the Biennale with a contemporary figure.
Gotcha.
And so I gravitated toward that.
Okay. I'm going to get back more to your social life as an artist in Jerome with other artists, but I'm going to interject a personal question to be selfish. you made a conscious choice to paint something that would be appropriate to sell in the Southwest. Indians, you said cowboys, but you didn't go there. You went with the Indians.
Yeah.
Did you? Would you recommend that to artists starting out?
Uh,
To approach
I
it from let's see what I can sell here versus maybe what just comes out when you sit down in front of a canvas on your own?
yeah, I would.
You would.
I would say be commercial first,
Okay.
and after your commercial, then you can go ahead and do the other stuff.
Note to self. Well,
Yeah.
interesting. Huh. Well,
And
I'm,
so
I'm just curious, when you first started painting, did you gravitate right to that with that idea, or did you do something different right from the get-go?
From the get-go, I was a landscape painter. So I did little landscapes uh, of Phoenix and of the desert, and then I sold those in the shows, but I noticed that people weren't buying them, you know. So I talked to my wife, and she says, "Well, listen, you've got this bent for drawing. You want to do Indian portraits." And I'd go like, "No, I don't want to do Indian portraits." But I did it,
Yeah.
you know, and
And she was right.
she was right. I had sellout shows.
Well, did you make them political?
I didn't.
I mean, these days, it's very political topic.
It's a political topic no matter what you do with them. But no, I more or less did the noble savage as the white guy thinks of him.
Okay.
You know, so I was definitely a white guy looking at Indians.
Yes.
And
did you catch any flack for that?
No, I never really did.
Not back then. 78, 80.
Yeah.
Wasn't these days you probably would. You think?
Possible. Fritz Scholder was a big influence in my career.
Okay.
And he railed against the Bambi artists, you know, that would do the noble savage.
Yes.
He railed against them.
It's almost incorrect to say the noble savage these days.
Yes. Right. Now this is getting into politics already.
Well, that's okay. We'll get back to Jerome in a second.
But he, of course, did Indians that were initially very ugly, but eventually turned very real. So he made an accomplishment that really was something for me to watch.
A transition.
Yeah.
Because he got a little more abstract, huh?
Yeah.
A little more symbolic?
Could be.
Yeah.
I would say both of those would be correct.
Okay.
You know, but you know, there's nothing to get in the way of my hero worship of Fritz Scholder.
Okay.
He's wonderful.
Yeah. But did you? Well, I'm curious. You you literally said that he had an animosity towards the white guy painting the noble savage, which is what you said you were doing.
Yeah.
So did that change your work?
It did, but I never was successful doing anything but that.
Interesting, huh?
So I kept it up,
Yeah.
and found my own beauty in it,
Right.
you know. And although I didn't make it uh, big and successful in that genre, I made a good living.
Okay. You made a decent living,
Yeah,
in terms of reputation.
yeah, a reputation that couldn't have
Right.
done
When do you
anything.
think that changed? When you started the landscapes up here?
Yeah, the landscape, I think,
Interesting.
uh, got me into reputation because they were big.
I've seen them.
Yeah,
Now,
they were
you did a
big.
lot of Verde River cottonwood trees. I haven't seen a lot of the red rock theme in your
Oh
work.
yeah, I've done it.
Oh, you
I've
have?
done it. Yeah,
Okay.
but it was too far. Uh, what I did was I would go back to the same scene over and over and over again to uh, finish it.
Plein
And
air.
yeah, plein air, but going back. So I needed to have places that were near me uh, for me to go back to them.
Okay. Yeah,
Driving
yeah, yeah.
driving 60 miles, to go back to the same place
Yeah.
is a lot.
A lot of work,
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of work.
I mean, plein air is hard enough.
Yeah, yeah,
And to take a large canvas out there.
yeah.
Oh
Right,
my God, I've seen some of yours. There
right.
must be 5 feet by 5 feet at least.
That's
And
close,
you would
right?
take those canvases out?
Yeah, I would take the big
Holy,
canvases out and
really?
set them up
You
and
must have
paint
had
them
a hell
there.
of an easel.
Um, just a aluminum easel with a guy wire
I was
that
gonna say you'd have
yeah,
to stake that to the
yeah, I
ground.
staked it to the ground.
Because you could get airborne real
Yeah,
easy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I did sometimes. I did. I chased several paintings down the river.
Very funny. Well, I'm going to segue back to your environment in Jerome. Did you make any close and lasting friendships with other artists
Oh,
here in Jerome?
of course. Jim Rome was a
Yeah.
good one. Um, that's lasted a long time. Uh, Other artists that have come through, like Dennis Porter,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah,
uh,
I
was
remember
a good
Dennis.
friend.
Well, how did so you were in 1978, so Jerome was still kind of quiet back then.
Yeah, fairly.
I mean, it was starting to pick back up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Richard Martin was telling me a little bit about Guillermo, the craft shop that they had up across from the House of Joy
Right.
there, where people were making jewelry, and Richard talked about it being quite successful. But you didn't. Were you familiar with those guys? Getting involved in any of the
Dick Martin?
Main Street stuff?
No, we were really pretty much holed up in the high school.
Right.
So most of my memories are of people that rented there.
Gotcha.
Of course, yourself.
Yes. For a little while.
Yeah.
When I spent my first 6, 7 years up at the what's now town hall, and then came down to the high school. Forget what year it was, but so I'm curious. You've watched Jerome grow up. Would you say?
Yeah.
Any thoughts or memories in that whole process? Did you get involved in any of the politics in town and the restorations or any of that sort of thing?
I just rarely get involved in politics. I just don't like it.
Me too.
Yeah, I remember doing something with the the Jerome Gallery. Let's see, that would be the artist co-op.
Okay.
You know, okay.
Yeah.
Artist co-op, and then there was another one up at the end of the street that was a society of Jerome artists. And
That may be a Guillermo's, or God, I can't remember the name of it now. Richard's got the old sign, but were they painters or crafts people and jewelers?
Yeah, they did. They had shows.
Yeah.
And the Jerome Historical Society, no.
Chamber of Commerce?
No, it was an art
co-op.
Co-op, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you got here, were you getting much traffic down at the high school?
It was always pretty good.
Really?
You know, like we'd sell out the shows before Elaine got to them. You know, so we'd have enough people.
You'd do shows at the high school?
Yeah.
And then by invitation?
Yeah.
So you had a client list that...
Yeah.
That must have been fun. People could come on a little adventure up to Jerome.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. So we did that early on. I want to do it again, but I just can't seem to get the energy.
Yeah. So, well, wow. And when was this, Robin? 80s, early 80s? You were doing this sort of thing?
Yeah. Must have been 86. Yeah, around 86 we were pre-selling the shows.
Wow. And that would be like 10, 15 paintings?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that's a admirable and somewhat envious accomplishment.
Yeah, it was good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, did you get involved with or go and listen to local music and stuff here?
Yeah.
Or did you just hide out at the high school in your studio? Well, you probably, like most of us artists, we like to be alone and work. Huh?
Yeah, we do. But no, I've danced up at the Spirit Room, sure.
Yeah. Did you know any of the early musicians that were around?
Oh gosh.
Back in the day, like Mick King and
Gio. Giovanni had a son, and that's John Billingsley. John.
I'm not sure.
Well,
the guy from
Major Lingo.
Major Lingo.
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah, there's Tony.
Okay, he's the slide player.
Yeah.
And there's actually some versions of the band that I don't know. I think, but So, do I remember you doing poetry readings?
Oh, I did poetry readings. Yeah.
Is that something you started early on when you came up here?
Well, I would have 3-year stints of being attacked by the muse, the poetic muse. And so it would last for 3 years and then it would stop, you know. So I would write poetry and recite and, do all kinds of things.
So you were the featured poet?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes. And then we had other poets come in. So it was fun.
When did you start that?
It was probably in the 90s.
Yeah, maybe shortly after I got here in 94, or maybe a little bit before that. Yeah. So I remember you having them, and I went to a couple.
Okay.
When I first arrived.
Okay, yeah.
They were always fun.
Yeah. And then over in your building, there was the shelter, which was something that Oh, I'm not gonna get his name. Uh, Moore. David Moore.
I don't know.
Okay.
But what was he doing over there?
Doing acts, like Saturday Night Live acts.
Oh no, theater.
Theater. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw any of that.
Oh.
That must have been a little earlier.
Must have been a little earlier.
Yeah.
96.
Yeah, well, that was the great thing about the high school, is that it was cheap enough that you could experiment.
Yeah, and we could do things.
Yeah, which is changing now,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it's becoming gentrified, and it may just go out entirely as far as the artists are concerned.
Right. I often wonder what weapon we have against that momentum.
Yeah.
I can't think of much.
Something in a spray can.
Start doing some graffiti. The resistance,
Yeah,
the artist resistance.
the artist resistance.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was it was the perfect community for artists. It was so kind of free and unestablishment, if you will. I mean, the social environment was pretty wild.
Yeah.
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 Don't want to get into any of that.
I just remembering and thinking, from my point of view, it was all very conservative, but from
really, explain
from
a little bit.
Conservative. I just always have been kind of conservative.
Oh, you're saying you were?
Yeah.
In your personal life.
I wasn't really that wild a guy.
Okay, I can relate.
Yeah. So, no, it
so you
seemed
kind of
to be-
stayed away from the wilder side of Jerome when you were here?
I wasn't in there.
Okay.
I was dancing every once in a while.
All right. Because I've gotten plenty of stories about, growing and selling marijuana, procuring peyote from the Indians, and a lot of people were into that. Hey, I don't know how I switched there. I was thinking about Ed Dowling, who told me a lot about peyote during our interview, but he also worked for the instrument company that was over in Building A. So were they there
Jerome Instruments.
When you got here? Were they still there?
As a matter of fact, they started when we got here. So it was something that happened during our time.
Right.
And we're still here, but they're not.
Yeah. Well, that probably bumped up the activity level.
Yeah.
They had all of Building A, or just part of it?
They had a lot of Building A.
Yeah.
If not all of it, that's true. Those years, I can't remember artists being in there. But they were Jerome's biggest employer.
Yeah.
So they did pretty good.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I think Ed was telling me probably 20, 25 people. Yeah. Which for Jerome was pretty
big.
We don't have anything that big.
Yeah.
Maybe Western Heritage, but I think they only have 8 or 10 guys, I think, at the most.
Right.
Yeah. Well, do you have any memories or thoughts you'd like to share with me, given our topic about Jerome, or your feelings about the town, and feelings about when you got here and about it, and how it's changed? Any thoughts in that respect?
Well, other than I love the town, I just love it. I've made this home, and this is going to be my only home, and I don't think of Scottsdale as a home, or New York. But Jerome Jerome's where I want to die. You know.
Okay. Would you people tell me this? Do you feel there's a certain energy here that's different from other places you've lived?
Yeah, I always thought that it was like Lothlorien, you know,
Oh,
in
I don't know that
Tolkien.
word.
Well, in Tolkien,
Oh, okay.
where uh, you'd go into this place and time would just pass you by on the outside. You know, the time would just fly by. And this doesn't seem part of the real world, you know.
Yes.
So, it seems like a good place for an artist to live.
I always, when I first started coming here, 94, 93, 94, I would drive up the road out from the Gulch up around the high school, and every time I'd make that drive, I would literally almost feel a tingling,
Uh huh.
and I could really sense it,
Uh huh.
and I would question myself: is this in your mind, or is there so much copper in the ground
Oh yeah.
that I'm sensitive to it? Did you ever
Yeah.
feel anything of that nature?
I've felt that coming up the switchbacks is like going to my neighborhood, you know.
Okay.
So I haven't felt any physical forces,
Interesting.
you know, but I felt sentimental forces.
Right. Well, you know what struck me now talking to you after talking to Jim Rome, you guys are similar in a way in that uh, you just got very focused and down to work.
Oh yeah.
You know, there wasn't any rock and roll star kind of shenanigans or a lot of drug or alcohol use or just crazy lifestyle or anything. You just, I was amazed. And you're sounding, disagree with me or correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys came here, seems like you found a beautiful, quiet place where you
Uh-huh.
could be left alone.
To work. Yeah. Yeah. The the truest thing about me is I want to work, and this is a environment that I can do that. I can work, or at least it has been. Uh, we were talking earlier about gentrification, and that seems to be happening here.
You feel it too.
Yeah, but it's going slow.
Right.
It's not fast.
Well, the things that attracted you and me and Jim Rome and I'm sure many artists was the availability of a an affordable, almost cheap, if you will, compared to workspace.
Yeah, that's true, and that's starting to go away now.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I worry that the artist will be priced out, and then the character of the community will start to change.
Yeah, yeah,
in succession.
yeah, I see that.
Yeah, yeah, because we have a real strong community. When someone gets in trouble, gets hurt,
That's true. That's true.
people gather around, come to Paul and Jerry's, donate,
Yeah,
help out. You know.
yeah, I found that out from personal experience.
Oh, tell me that story.
Well, Henry Vincent,
Yeah,
was my accountant, and I would he collected my work, you
okay.
know, over the last 20 years. And when he heard that I had financial difficulties, he came to my rescue and has just been, he brings me lunch every day.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of wonderful.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Excellent.
and now I'm on the other side of my financial difficulties, and he's helped me through it. See,
Awesome.
so and he's done that gratis without,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I will admit to having a couple close friends here. George Glassman has helped me out.
Yeah, George Glassman.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Very
Yeah.
good guy. Yeah. And same thing. You know, I was having some financial difficulty and he was there for me.
Cool.
And I ended up paying him back, but he told me, I didn't expect this.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't waiting for this.
Yeah, isn't that something?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we take care of our own around here. I often wonder how big does a town have to get before you lose that?
Yeah. Yeah, right. This is a wonderful small town,
Indeed.
you know, 400 residents or
Yeah,
so.
and it stayed kind of constant.
Yeah. There's just no room to grow, you know. It's
Hard to build here.
Yeah, it's hard to build.
Yeah.
But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Mark Hemleben.
Oh, sure.
And Mark Hemleben has been a friend forever. And what an artist, you know. Came into town in the 90s, I
Yeah,
think.
about the time I did.
About 90s?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Little bit before me,
Yeah.
but not much.
Yeah. And yeah, Mark's been a wonderful friend and also confidant and so forth. And we've gone out painting together, and you know, we just so.
He got you back out on the plein air.
Yeah.
circuit?
He got. I was giving up on the plein air circuit, and he got me back out.
Cool.
So there's a good friend.
Yeah. Well, I'm running out of questions. I am going to ask you if there's some stories about Jerome or anything in particular that you, when you thought about the interview, if you wanted to share.
No, I think we
We're
covered
pretty much
it.
covered
Yeah,
it?
we covered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
we're,
right.
We're pretty good.
Well, here's a question I ask everybody at the end. I say, if you could speak to Jeromans 50 years from now,
Okay.
would there be anything you'd want to say to him or tell him or about whatever?
Wow. Well, don't worry about the minerals and the acids and the caustic materials that us artists leave around.
You're talking about your etching chemicals?
Yeah. Right. Katie Lee lived to be 89 years old, so it didn't hurt her.
Right.
She was right down the street from me.
Right. Well, there's a whole big pit over there I think they're probably more concerned about.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, Robin,
Okay.
should we wrap it up?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.